Joining me now is Nathan Sales, former ambassador at large and counterterror coordinator under Trump, and Christian Whiton, who's a former Trump State Department senior advisor, senior fellow at the Center for the National Interest. Christian, let's start with you. I mean, the media are really trying to sell this as some, Reagan Reykjavik moment with Gorbachev. I mean, I don't think that flies, but could there be some residual benefit for Joe Biden after the dust settles on this summit?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if you go back to the reason he won in 2000 is because he was kept out of the public spotlight. The more people see him, the more people see his cognitive decline, the more people see that he looks like a junior partner to Xi Jinping, and really just came out of this summit with nothing. I mean, we have this fake agreement on fentanyl. I'll believe that when I see it. I don't think the Chinese are going to change their conduct at all. And we also agreed to limit the use of artificial intelligence in military applications. That hurts us. That hurts the United States. That's an area where we could actually get an edge on China and get ahead of their very large military buildup. But he gave this away and got very little, got really nothing in return.
Now, Nathan, The Economist is out with a delusional piece today that was titled, "Donald Trump poses the big danger to the world in 2024. They're arguing that the greatest threat Mr. Trump poses to his own country and China and its friends would rejoice over the evidence that American democracy is dysfunctional. Nathan, here you have trillions of dollars in corporate wealth gathered to prostrate themselves at the feet of a communist dictator. And The Economist is saying Trump's the problem? Trump's anti-democratic?
I mean, Laura, it's deranged. Look around the world. The world is on fire. Russia has invaded Ukraine in a war of aggression. That seems to me to be a pretty big threat to the United States and the world order. China is hungrily eyeing Taiwan across the strait. Xi Jinping is going to use military force if he can. He's told the People's Liberation Army, be ready by 2027. And this is what The Economist is worried about? What about Iran, which just launched a huge war on Israel using its terror proxy Hamas, and is launching, I think, over 60 rocket attacks through its proxies on American forces across the Middle East? Where's that in the conversation? I think, the Economist has just lost its mind if it looks at the world and thinks that the United States is the major problem here.
Well, Christian, the interesting thing in this Monmouth survey, again, it just came out, is that foreign policy is way down on the list of concerns, including, Ukraine. And there's some more concern for Hamas, but not much. It's still our border, our economy. Crime is even actually fairly low in this new survey, which I found interesting. But it's really the economy and the border are the dominant issues, which, again, I think explains Trump's enduring appeal in a state like New Hampshire. That's kind of a quirky state for Republicans. But Trump's up, I think, almost, 40 points over Nikki Haley.
Right. I think foreign policy being low, I think part of that is explained by the Washington Mono Party. Trump and DeSantis have differed from the status quo, from the establishment on Ukraine, but you still have both parties in Congress itching to spend billions more. Now, the new Speaker of the House has separated aid to Israel from aid to Ukraine, but guaranteed by the end of December, certainly by the end of January, these people will have sent billions more of our dollars to a stalemate in Ukraine after a counteroffensive that has failed. So, foreign policy really hasn't been on the agenda, and I think it won't be until Trump or DeSantis put it there. But economically, yeah, I mean, no matter how much they tout Bidenomics, people understand that they have lost 25% of their purchasing power, 25% of your savings, 25% of your ability to buy something, whether it's a house or a hamburger, has been taken away by Joe Biden permanently. That's what the problem, unless we go to deflation, that's not coming back.
I think even the New York Times had to admit that Biden's biggest enemy out there, it's not the anti-democracy forces in the United States. It's the lowered buying power of Americans because of sustained inflationary pressures. Jennifer Palmieri, Obama's communications director, had some amazing advice, Nathan, for how Joe Biden can really run strong next year. Watch.
You could run on the American military being the strongest in the world, American leadership being restored, the American economy rebounding from COVID, and democracy, while constantly under threat. More people are voting, and President Biden could do this. It's not just Bidenomics.
Nathan, did Biden succeed on anything that she just mentioned there?
It seems like she's grading on a curve, Laura. Look, nobody can look at America's position in the world today and say that we're better off today than we were 3.5, 4 years ago. Vladimir Putin was not deterred by the Biden administration. He launched a war of aggression in Ukraine, and then the Biden administration's response to this has been to slow roll aid. Rather than giving Ukraine what it needs to win, the administration has given Ukraine just barely enough to stay in the fight and prolong this for months and months and months longer than necessary.
Nathan,
and when it comes to the military,
could debate Ukraine.
Yeah. It's an awful lot of money.
Yeah, Nathan, you and I could debate Ukraine for an hours here, but suffice it to say that $120 billion for what we were saying we were getting, that's just, I mean, the American people are going to just say no to that. I'm sorry. That's just, American people have already said no to that. But we obviously know who the good guys are. Christian Whiton and Nathan Sales, thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.